Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly analysis here at TrinFx. For those of you that are new, my name is Josh, aka the Homie Fletcher, owner and founder of the TrinFx YouTube and also Discord community group, where I share my personal trades as well as help traders, people who are serious in getting into trading and understanding how it works, helping them achieving their goals of becoming funded traders as well as better understanding the markets. Okay, and we're just going to go through a weekly analysis here for the upcoming week, taking a look at the fundamentals first. This is how I usually start off, with an overall view of fundamental news that we have coming up for the week, as well as technically what we can see on the charts and potential setups that we can get when we do go over that, right? So diving into it real quick, let me just sign in here on my FX book. I don't know why it's like this. I wish that they just leave you signed in once you signed in once and that's it. But taking a quick look right here. So we have on Monday RBA meeting minutes. All right. So if you don't know what this is, just take a quick look at the RBA meeting minutes. You can see it's when the Reserve Bank of Australia's board, right, they're responsible for making interest rate decisions in Australia. The cash rate, which is the interest rate, is imposed on overnight loans between financial intermediaries, right? And is established in the money market as the result of the interaction of demand and supply of overnight funds. All right, so this is basically where the boards of the Australian bank, right? The board comes together and they make a decision on what to do with interest rates. So whether we're going to see an increase in interest rates, and really it gives sort of a tone for future movement in the market for the Aussie dollar, right? So this is a very high impactful news, something that we should pay attention to. This is coming out on Monday. Now, whether we get moves from this, it really depends on what is said during that time. We should see interest rates increase continuing along for the Aussie dollar as well as for some other significant currencies, just because inflation still is high and the central banks, they need to do what they can in order to bring inflation back down. For the AUD itself, if we take a look from last week, and I think I'll put it somewhere here, we had good numbers in terms for employment as well as low unemployment, which is good for the economy. And the employment change as well was pretty high, which is also great for the economy. It means new jobs are being created and that there's more people being employed. Less unemployment is great for the economy and it really helps stimulate growth, right? So with that being said, it should bring inflation back down, as well as we should see an increase on interest rates to continue bringing inflation back down, because we have an overall very well performing economy. So with that being said, I do think continuing forward, we should see some interest rates increase for the AUD. We also have, well, this really on Tuesday, not really much going on, right? We have the CHF trade balance. So this is something I would pay attention to. And then we have some other USD news. Building permits, not really something that affects market movement. So this is something I wouldn't really take into consideration, even though it marks as high impactful here. We have the Japanese yen BOJ monetary policy meeting minutes. This is something I'll pay attention to. And with the yen, as we come from last week, we had interest rates remaining the same, which is dovish for the yen. However, given the state that the US dollar is in, as well as the overall US economy, the yen and CHF has really been appreciated because investors have been fleeing from the US dollar into safe haven pairs, safe haven currencies, as well as commodities such as gold and silver and these other rare precious earth metals, right? So with that being said, I do think that the yen itself does have room for continuing improvement despite that lackluster or that remainder, right? Interest rates remaining the same, which is something not uncommon for the Japanese economy. They usually are very steadfast in keeping rates unchanged unless it's something that's very impactful, such as when unemployment was high, as well as when inflation was very high throughout that COVID period. So with that being said, I do think that the Japanese yen does have area to continue moving bullishly as we come up into this week. and we'll take a look at some possible currency pairs we could get involved in. Wednesday, we have the inflation rate for the pound. That is something I'm paying attention to here. Looking to see rates actually decrease, right? So inflation is going down steadily, and we're looking to see a continuation of this. We also have card retail sales number expecting to be less than the previous, so bad numbers here for that. But you can see we have retail sales for the year-to-year comparison for April being 2% from that 2.4%. But we have the retail sales for April negative 1.4% from the previous, being more positive on the turnout, right? As far as the CAD is concerned, as well as the US dollar, it's pretty bearish. So this news, it may come out positive, but at the same time, I wouldn't be looking to do anything in terms of getting any bullish movement or look for any bullish setup on the CAD or the US dollar at this moment. The most we'll be looking at is for possible pullbacks into where we could get into sell opportunities with that overall dovishness. We also have the Fed Chair Powell coming to speak, giving his testimony. So that is coming out at 10 a.m. Wednesday. All right. So this is something that's highly impactful. He'll come and speak about the economy as well as what we could expect, possibly speaking on July, that we should see more interest rates increase. As you would know, if you've been paying attention to the markets, we did have a area, or at least for a moment, where price spiked briefly in favor of the US dollar when it came to the overall interest rate projection. And that projection showed that we can expect to see rates rise coming to the ending of this year, with given whatever tools that the Fed do implement, and that gave them the direction to continue seeing rates rise at least twice for the remainder of the year, right? So that is something that we could pay attention and look forward to. So there's not going to be any rate cuts right now for the US dollar. But again, very, very bearish sentiment on the dollar right now currently. So we can't speak too much on whether or not we would see some bullish momentum from the dollar, especially given when we do have Fed Chair Powell speaking and such. We have interest rate decision for the CHF as well as the pound, right? That's coming out this Thursday, and we're expected to see an increase, right? First, by the CHF, an increase of 50 basis points, and by the British pound, right, by 25 basis point increase, right? So that is something that we could expect to see some bullish movement off of this. For the CHF, this would be really good if we do get that interest rate increase. Actually, we should see a relatively very huge spike in favor of the CHF, just given the overall dovishness of the dollar. If that does continue after Wednesday's Fed Powell speaks, we should see more rallying in favor of the CHF as well as the pound against that dollar, especially CHF, as it is considered more of a safe haven currency, right? We also have the jobless claims coming out for the US dollar. Again, expecting bearishness. This shows that the consensus compared to the previous is a little bit more positive. However, I'll take this with a grain of salt right now. So I am still bearish on the dollar, despite we'll see how these news events do turn out, what sort of numbers we do get. But for now, I am still going to consider that bearish tone. And then for the Friday, we have retail sales, which is also very important for the GBP, expected to come down. All right. So we see what sort of effect that will have on the pound. All right. So taking a quick look at the markets right now. GBPCAD. Okay. So GBPCAD, I did have a position trying to go and sell this. However, this was coming closer to the ending of the trading week on Friday. However, I closed it off a little bit away from break even, so a little bit in the red, not too much. I think around about 0.5% loss. With that being said, I do think moving on, my general bias is going to shift. All right, so I'm looking to buy in positions such as these. Overall, here on the daily, you can see that we were trending up very strongly over the past few days, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, very nice, strong bullish momentum. right? We came into this resistance zone, price spiked up and then pulled back here, right? Coming to the ending of that day. Now continuing moving forward, however, I do think we can see price continue moving higher. Again, with the pound and compared to the Canadian dollar and the US dollar pretty weak overall, right? So I am more interested in seeing buy positions on this. More particularly against the CAD and the US dollar, those will be great setups to get into. But I would be looking for possible setups for this, maybe coming closer to when we have the interest rates increase for the pound itself. That will give sort of a better setup, as we'll have they'll have a bigger discrepancy between the fundamental differences for the pound and the Canadian dollar, right? More of a bullish tone for the pound and a bearish tone for the Canadian dollar. And with that being said, it gives us more of a clearer general idea of where this direction should continue, right? Where this price action should continue. All right. AUDJPY, right? As you can see, a lot of these trends are pretty bullish, especially against the US dollar. Right now, I do think, again, this is sort of my personal opinion, right? So you should do your own research as well when it comes to trading. And this is just me sharing my personal opinion, what I expect the markets to do, and implementing my own trading strategy with the fundamentals and technicals as well. So with the AUDJPY, taking a top-down analysis, we could see that price, again, very strong in favor of the AUD. As we had that bearishness for the dollar, we saw a lot of these other currency really push, and we had that bearishness as well for the Japanese yen too. With that being said, we saw this very heavy bullish movement. Now coming into this week, however, I do think at this point we could get some sort of pullback. All right. So for me right now, I do think that price can possibly pull down, and that would be sort of what I'm mainly looking for. And if we do get a retest of this area right here, we could start a possible new trend, and that'll be like my setup to actually see price continue fall in favor of the yen, right? The Japanese economy keeping interest rates the same is nothing surprising. However, given with the current situation, we can assume that that is why the markets chose to behave in the way that it did behave, by showing this bullish movement against the yen. Despite this is the usual where we do have the yen currency, the yen interest rates remaining the same time and time again, right? It's very hard, it's very unlikely to see something such as the yen actually change in terms of its interest rates. It usually stays at a negative rate, right? So with that being said, I do think overall though, we can see price potentially come back down into this supportive area right here. We are in a very heavy rejection zone, right, on the higher time frame. So once we do get that sort of playing out, if we could start a new trend and we get price pulling down below the supportive level right here, then at that point I think it's really good to actually get into a short setup, especially with the upcoming news, right? So this is sort of one of my playouts, right? And possibly gonna be my only playout. I would risk 1%. Sorry, let me just take this out. I would risk around 1% on this market open right here, just expecting to see price actually maintain this resistance zone and pull down away from it. Again, it's anybody's game, but this is sort of what I would expect to see price do. And if we can continue with that bearishness, right, then enter a secondary position right here as we push past the supportive zone, and that'll be like my indication to start seeing a new trend form, all right, or at least some sort of a pullback into that higher continuation, right? So this is sort of my lookout for AUDJPY. Okay, taking a look at the other stuff that we do have coming up. The dollar, the DXY, really bearish, right? So this is a daily outlook right here. We can see that overall price has been sort of coming down gradually, right? Taking a closer look at the current levels as well as the 4-hour and the 1-hour, we could see this clear trend downwards, right? So price came here, it peaked at this level, and gradually we started forming new levels, pulling lower, right? And this being the sharpest pull down here. So at this point, and you could take a look closer, at this point, I do think the US dollar is going to continue lower, right? And this is just the overall US dollar currency strength. If we translate this onto the cross pairs, the US dollar cross pairs, we can see, take a look right here, AUDUSD, we can see that sort of movement being the reverse of the DXY, right? Price pull down here, we had that pull up here, and then we have this sort of consolidation at this level. So moving forward, if we take a look at the DXY, I do think firstly we would see sort of a pullback, an area where buyers may try to actually push price higher, but with the overall momentum, sellers might be able to control this and potentially move price lower, right? So it really depends on what we do have coming up, the sort of news that we do have coming up. Especially this would heavily rely on Fed Powell's testimony. Whatever he says, it does carry his weight, right, as he does speak for the Federal Reserve, and that does carry weight into the markets, right? So market psychology may end up playing out. We might see a rally on this, or we might see a continuation of that bearish movement, right? Something that I would take into consideration, at least as a currency to actually look at, EURUSD, right? EURUSD, usually when we do have a dovish dollar, we have a very strong bullish euro, right? It's one of the most heavily traded pairs as well, right, in the market each day. So with that being said, I do think if we are going to get into any USD trades for the best possible yields, EURUSD is your way to go. So this is something that I'm really paying attention to and looking at as well. Again, waiting for some sort of pullbacks and then continuation movements, right? So if price manages to pull all the way lower into here, this is what I'll be looking at to see it sort of maintain the supportive level and push higher, right? Or maybe we might just see price actually continue with this bullishness and continue pushing up. Taking a look from the daily, right? I would consider this a sort of a level to pay attention to here, resistance level, right? We saw that price broke down, came back up strongly here, rejected slightly on this daily candle coming to the close of last week. We saw that bearish rejection, right? So that being said, we could possibly see a continuation, maybe, because again, US dollar very, very dovish. But I think this is just eminent waiting for some sort of pullback. So if we do get that pullback, this would be a better chance of getting into the trade for a better yield, as well as mitigating, minimizing your risk. All right. So this is something that I'll be paying attention to as well. And starting the week off is really about taking things slow. All right. Because as the week continues, we do have fundamental news coming out. There may be news that's not even scheduled to come out that would come out, and that may have an effect on price action. So with that being said, we can make a lot of speculations, a lot of predictions as to what I expect the markets to do. But it's always good to be flexible with your way of thinking, especially when it comes to trading, as things can change along the way, right? Sometimes something may happen at the spur of the moment, and that causes price action, or what you considered first to be your very best trade setup, to actually shift on you. So you need to keep an open and flexible mind and be able to bend to the markets as it is ever changing, right? Nothing is permanent. Nothing is set in stone when it comes to trading the financial markets. So it's always good to be flexible. Don't get stuck in one way of thinking. Okay, you're going on buys. Don't just say, okay, I'm going on buys alone, right? You have to be able to go on buys and sells depending on what the market does. All right. So with that being said, I do think a lot of these trades, especially coming to the euro, we can see some bullishness. I am expecting to see a recovery on this here, GBP, Euro GBP, right? we saw the pound being very bullish coming to the ending of the week, right? Pound was really bullish. Now, as to what caused that bullishness, I have no idea, because honestly, nothing fundamentally really resonates as to why this is, or why it moved and why it behaved in such a way, right? So I really don't know. Coming with the pound itself, I think overall we can see some sort of recovery, such as on this here, the Euro GBP. If you take a look at the daily, strong push down here. I'm expecting price to come back into this level here and push upwards. Look at the 4-hour. It really depends, because we might maintain this move downwards, but I'm really looking at this zone right here, right? I'm looking at this zone right here. See if price comes back into this area, then we should continue moving higher up, maybe back into this level right here, right? So this would be sort of my target level once we see price come back up here, right? And that's basically it. I'm not gonna go too in depth in like other trades that I'm looking at. I'll save that for the VIP, but right now these are the things that I'm paying more main focus on, what I'm looking at, what I'm looking to see price possibly do, and we'll see how that goes for the continuation of this week, right guys? So thank you for joining in. I really do appreciate your patronage. If you found this video informative, you got any knowledge out of it, then please feel free to leave a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed as yet, as that will help you get future updates as to when I post a video such as this one. And yeah, make sure to share, love, and support the channel. It really does help me reach and engage with other traders out there, people that's coming into the trading space and want somebody that's no bullshit, transparent as hell, and just wants everybody to level and profit, right guys? So I really do appreciate it. And quick look at something here. Just take a quick look right here, right? This is the VIP group here on the TrinFx channel, right? Discord channel. So you can see I do send all of my trades. I send my reasoning behind the trade, fundamentals as well, and members result, right? This is one of my main members, and he has just been doing phenomenal, like just been killing the markets, right? This guy named Tyrese, right? He just been killing the markets right now. So big shout out to you, right? Really just killing it, taking the trades, taking the signals, and just profiting off the markets, right? So big shout out to you. I do hope that you guys that are watching this video, you come across this video, that you see this, there's no bullshit. We really be doing this, right? Week after week, month after month. I haven't had a bad month in like a very long while, right? A very long while. Haven't had a bad month in over 10 months, right? So a very long while. So with that being said, I really do hope that you check the Discord channel out, right? It costs you nothing to just join. You can see the free signals, the free trade ideas I do send, and the fundamentals as well. And I want more people that's more engaging. Feel free to ask me questions, whether it's in the comments or whether you're reaching out to me on Discord or my email, anything like that. I really just want to help everybody really prosper and grow in the financial markets, using this as a stepping stone to where you want to be in life, right guys? So thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Check out the description as well, and peace. Have a great trading week.